Democrat who's usually very outspoken is now dodging questions about President Biden's age.
Meanwhile, a new report reveals there are tensions building in the White House briefing room.
And the president refusing to answer any questions at yesterday's briefing, but he had plenty to say about former President Donald Trump. Peter Doocy is live at the White House to cover this. Hey, Peter.
And this part was a surprise, you guys, because it seems like a good way to combat questions or concerns about your memory being no good would be to answer some questions and to go off script like he did last Thursday. But that did not happen here yesterday.
Good afternoon. Before we begin, I'm going to make this statement, let it stand on its own. I'm not going to take any questions, but I'll be taking questions tomorrow and the next day. But I don't want anything to get in the way of the statement. To be very blunt about it.
And hey, that's what he's got a press team for. But there is a new report about some new tension between the top two public-facing officials, John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre. According to the New York Times, quote, Mr. Kirby had privately acknowledged when asked that he would one day like to be named press secretary, and he has expressed frustration that Ms. Jean-Pierre picked the reporters who ask him questions at briefings. And that's because some guests, including Jake Sullivan, who's going to brief today, get to decide themselves who to call on at the microphone. It keeps the person talking in control. Something Democrats cannot control, though, are these questions and concerns about Joe Biden's age and acuity. So now they're hoping to make that a thing about Trump, too.
When it comes to the president's age, folks are talking about how he's 81, but we have to look at, first of all, Donald Trump is around the same age as
77, yeah.
He's 77 years old. They could have gone to high school together. What I know who I'm going to choose. It's going to be one of the most successful presidents in modern American history that passed the Inflation Reduction Act, that got us the American Rescue Plan.
And there's a big Reuters item today detailing all the different ways that some experts believe Democrats dropped the ball party-wide in addressing questions about President Biden's acuity sooner. But something we know is not going to happen when, and this is from officials on the record, when the president goes for his physical, which we expect to be soon, he will not participate in a cognitive exam. Back to you.
Will he refuse to answer questions, or they just won't offer it to him?
It seems like it's just not going to be offered.
Yeah.
And
Why?
if it is, I am not a doctor. I just play one on TV.
Right.
Yeah, and Peter, the
Slip
reason
him the SATs.
we think that the president probably said, "Okay, I'm not going to take any questions," because you asked him the question after his statement last Thursday night, and then they just went into a ditch. But ultimately, regarding the tension in the briefing room, and I know this has been talked about for a little while, but you said on Monday that during the Super Bowl, the White House actually called you and said John Kirby being elevated was not a demotion for KJP.
Right. But it is this whole thing where she gets to call on people that will get to ask him a question. That is something that not every guest has to do. Some of the guests who are there more infrequently have to do that, but it's a way, if you're there answering questions, you might want to call on somebody, you might not want to call on somebody, and he does not have that power right now in the briefing room, which is one way for the hierarchy to remain, where there is one press secretary, officially, it is Karine Jean-Pierre, and then John Kirby, despite his new elevated title, is not the press secretary.
Right. Now, that's really got to burn him as an admiral. Used to having people salute you and take command. Now he's got to sit there and have somebody pick out questioners. How insulting.
New York Times says in that article that back in 2022, when Jen Psaki stepped down and KJP was named, that the president said he was trying to reassure her not to worry about filling Psaki's shoes, and you'll have an admiral looking over your shoulder. Real quickly, what is behind you, Peter? Did we lose him?
Yeah, he's gone.
Looked like
a Valentine's Day card?
Looked like it.
Yeah.
Big. I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.